Welcome to Spiritual as Fuck,
Spiritual as fuck.
where spirituality meets the real world. I'm Liz Volpe, social entrepreneur, psychic medium, teacher, and founder of the Intuition Academy. I am passionate about inspiring people to dream big and change the world.
I'm Dianne Driscoll, a coach, facilitator, keynote speaker, and self-directed healing practitioner. I am fascinated with all things science, spirituality, and self-leadership, and love the journey of incorporating my spiritual gifts into my life and business.
We share real and raw spiritual stories, give you a safe space to challenge what's normal and have some serious fun along the way. If the podcast isn't enough, we invite you to our monthly online events and workshops with some of the world's best spiritual teachers.
Plus, join our interactive community on Patreon with bonus episodes and lots of extra content. Everything you need to be spiritual as fuck. Before we introduce our next guest, we would like to remind listeners that tickets are now available for our upcoming 30-minute online supercharged session on August 14th. This month's session promises to build your spiritual practices and help you ground like a gangsta. All the details are in the show notes. Today, we have the privilege of interviewing past life psychic and spiritual teacher Ainslie MacLeod. Ainslie was an atheist and self-confessed skeptic until he had a life-changing spiritual experience with a deceased relative, which completely changed the trajectory of his life. With the support of his spirit guides, Ainslie now helps people live the life their soul intended by taking people on a journey deep into the world of their soul and past lives to discover who they are, why they're here, and how to live each day aligned with their highest purpose. Ainslie is the author of 3 incredible books, The Instruction, The Transformation, and my favourite, The Old Soul's Guidebook. The highlight of this interview for me was when Ainslie surprised Liz and I by tapping into our soul types with some incredible insights. This is a truly amazing episode. Enjoy every minute.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Now, I have to start by saying if I was a comedian right now, I would probably crack a joke about the English, the Irish, and the Scotsman walking into a bar. Because I think this is the first time that we've had all 3 nationalities live on the podcast, which is exciting. And not just that, we have only once before shared our virtual couch with someone that has also sat with Oprah. And today we have yet another connection with Oprah here with the incredible past life psychic, Ainslie MacLeod. So welcome, Ainslie.
Thank you very much for having me.
And it is good to have a Scottish accent on the podcast, I must admit.
Well, I don't know if I still have much of it. I've been gone for a very long time.
Oh, you do? I don't think we lose our accents.
No, definitely
not.
not.
Back in Scotland, I think I sound American. They think I'm putting it on.
Oh, no way.
And then I get confused about things like tomatoes and tomatoes. And
yeah. Oh, well, you're very welcome here. And we've got lots of listeners over that side of the world. So they'll be very happy to have you on. Now, I think we should kick off just exploring your title, which is really interesting. You're a past life psychic. Can you share a little bit about what does that mean?
Yeah, well, when I first discovered that I had the ability and I started putting myself out into the world, it wasn't very clear initially quite what the focus would be. I work with spirit guides, and they would give me information. Even they weren't totally clear. We had to work on a few things. What was my forte going to be? I did odd little things like finding missing objects and finding missing people. Really very little of it. And people who had gone missing, they turned up, thank goodness. And then I felt like I don't really want, what if somebody's dead and I have to deliver that news? So I was kind of going, I don't really want to be, find missing people. And missing objects was not very exciting. So gradually what it was is just like, looking at people's life plans and what are they here to do, and a big part of that started to become past lives. I noticed very early on. I remember somebody saying to me, I said, we want to talk about a past life. And the client says, well, oh, no, I just want to talk about this life. Within 2 minutes, we're talking about a past life because you couldn't talk about this life without taking care of what happened in the past. So it became a bigger and bigger part of my focus. And now it's a huge part of what I do because I really think of it as like if you're only looking at this life, you're looking at that tip of the iceberg. And we all are carrying so much stuff from other incarnations. And once you delve into those past incarnations, it explains all sorts of things like your fears, phobias, limiting beliefs, talents, abilities, quirks and idiosyncrasies, the oddest, weird things that people have, the strange little idiosyncrasies, they're terrified of, I don't know, hot cross buns or something, like just weird random stuff. And then you find it's all associated to some horrible death in a past life. So I just found that more and more interesting. I have ADHD and, well, probably a lot of other stuff as well. So I when I find something that really intrigues me, it's like I'm kind of all in.
Yeah, opening the floodgates.
So I find it endlessly fascinating. Before every session that I do with clients, everything I do is over the phone or Zoom. I always get a past life. I've been doing that now probably for about 10 years. I'll just get a heads up almost of what's coming up. And that just fascinates me to see how that all relates to that person and how it, connects to what's going on in their lives right now.
Wow.
So that was really how I got into it. And discovering that really reincarnation, I like to say this, it explains everything. And I actually ask people to challenge me on that. I don't think there's anything about human behavior that isn't past life related in some way.
Oh, wow.
So bring it on.
That's huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's pressure test that one.
Yeah.
It is.
Can you share with us, Ainslie, how your gifts work? Like in that, you're past life psychic, but how do you receive the information?
What I do is called clairaudience. But it's not what I would have thought was clairaudience or what most people would take by that. There was an amazing psychic that I met, I'll be like almost 40 years ago in Brighton on the south coast of England. And he actually had a voice in his ear. I mean, it was like he'd be turning towards it and going, what? Okay, I'll tell him. I mean, it's like absolutely bizarre, but he was awesome. I mean,
wow.
I still kind of am like totally in awe with this guy. And so I have clairaudience, but it's not like a voice in the ear. I wish it was, because it would be like a lot easier. It's more like a sort of knowing, but also getting a full sentence. And that was something in the early days where we had to sort of figure out what was the best way to do things, to communicate. Funnily enough, we tried things like metaphors, visual metaphors, incorporating that. Then we discovered that I'm not very good at interpreting them. So I was having to get my clients to help, so what I get is like a full sentence that really, in the moment that I'm talking to somebody, that would be all that I've got in my head. And there's no distraction. There's just, it makes it very, very simple, because I think when you start doing this kind of work, one of the big questions you always ask yourself is it my imagination?
Mm-hmm.
Am I just making this up or something? And actually, in my early days, I used to. It was kind of pre-ish internet or something, such a big deal. I used to keep a dictionary beside me, and I would get words that I didn't know the meanings of, and that really helped to validate that I was getting stuff from a source. It would always be the most appropriate word for in the context. So little things like that help to build confidence, and also getting feedback from clients, and was sort of, oh my God, even my own mother doesn't know that kind of moment.
Yeah. Oh, you need some of those, don't you?
Oh, I love doing that. Yeah.
It's interesting because obviously you now know and have a word to describe, I am clairaudient, I receive through hearing. But when you look back through to, Ainslie as a young boy, do you now identify that that's always happened to you? Or when was the point where you were
yeah.
holy shit, I'm a psychic?
Oh, I totally had the holy shit, I'm a psychic thing, because it's weird, because I did have a lot of psychic type things happen to me. And I never, ever, 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 not for 1 second, ever thought of being psychic. And the funny thing is, as I got older, I was probably about 30 when I went to see a psychic for the first time. And I told myself I was going to debunk her, and then came out with my hair standing on end and going, "How the fuck did she know that?" It was like, oh, geez. The interesting thing is that she would. I went to see her a lot. A lovely woman named Bettina. She would. When I'd sit down with her, she would always look at my palm, and she'd always press my fingertips, and she'd tell me I'm too soft-hearted. And she would go, very accurately, she would go, "Oh, money goes in this hand and out the other one." And I was going, "Yeah, that's probably one I always broke." And she'd always say, "And you're psychic." And I'd always make the same joke. I'd go, "Well, if I was psychic, I wouldn't be paying you. I would be doing it myself."
Do it myself.
I heard it from a lot of people. And of course, looking back at childhood now, it's really obvious. It was a weird thing that I talked to Oprah about, seeing a ghost in the reference library in my hometown of Aberdeen. And it was the oddest thing, just for a moment. I'm sitting there, and this guy comes over, and he's got to me, it was like a hat down, but couldn't really see the face, and sort of collar up, Humphrey Bogart kind of character, and asked me for a light. And because of this, I can remember exactly what I was wearing. It was a maroon jacket with multiple pockets, and I'm kind of looking for a book of matches, and then it only took me like a couple of seconds, and then I turn around, and it's like, where the hell's he gone? That was something that was only like decades later I was able to say to the spirit world, what was that all about? And they said, well, he just knew you could see him. It's just so he just chose somebody who was psychic to say hello to. Why? I mean, looking back, the whole thing's bizarre. Why is anybody asking for matches in a reference library?
I was about to say that, yeah.
I mean, it's all the whole thing's but there's certainly weird things like that. Quite a few ghosts. Yeah, well, maybe he's going to set fire to the books. So that's the book burner. So. Yeah, I had a lot of things like that, where I knew things. Well, one was a typical example was getting in the back of the car with my family, and going, "Oh, we're going to get a flat tire. We're going to get a flat tire. Just know it." And then we got a flat tire, and then I made the assumption, egotistical, I thought I'd made it happen.
Yes,
if I
manifested it.
Yeah, if I hadn't thought about having a flat tire, maybe we wouldn't have. But what it was precognition. I was getting that we were going to get a flat tire, so it was already kind of in there. But like I say, I didn't know it. I mean, I had some really entertaining things where, like, a couple of times people stopped me in public places and said, "I'm psychic, and my spirit guides tell me you're psychic and you should be doing something with it." And
Wow.
I look back and I wish I'd just paid a little bit more attention to that. There's a very nice lady at Gatwick Airport told me that. She's telling me all that. Her husband's beside her going, "He's so embarrassed. He's going this mumbo jumbo. Oh my God, I can't believe he's trying to apologize to me." But I was fascinated. A couple of times in a London pub. I was so drunk the second time, I don't know if it was the same person twice or two different people. But it came up and told me I was psychic and should be doing something with it. And it took a long time. I always talk about the story where I took a trip when I moved to the west coast of the States. I took a trip to Hawaii and ran into my uncle in a bookstore, which was like a bit of a shocker because he'd been dead for about 10 years at that point. And I had heard from multiple psychics that he was acting as a spirit guide. And my take was always, well, he was a non-believer. I was a total atheist. He was a total atheist. What the heck would we be doing working together with him as a spirit guide. But I'd literally the day before gone to see a psychic, and she said, "Oh, your uncle," and she named him. I mean, that's another one that, like, several psychics mentioned my Uncle John, and the skeptic in me was going, "Yeah, everybody's got an Uncle John." I mean, it's but I ran into my Uncle John, and that started me. He was there for like a second. He was just like about 18 inches away on my right side, and with a nice smile on his face, real as life, but just like that. But with a much longer message about working together. Don't get distracted. Focus on this. You're really meant to be doing it. And then I just, I spent probably way too long practicing. I spent about 3 years just working on developing my abilities. Not reading people, but just every available moment talking to spirit guides. He passed me over to the spirit guides I work with now. And I would just ask questions about geography, history, anything, to the point where they're kind of going, like, "Are you ever
Get on with it.
you ever gonna get out
You going
and
to
do
share
something
any
with
of
this?"
it?
I was terrified of getting something wrong. I know.
I love that, though. It's almost like for years, you've been getting these messages from anyone. And let's face it, it takes a lot of bravery for anyone to receive a message and then come up and say it out loud to you. And then by the end of that, they're so pissed off that we're going to have to send his uncle, because it's going to take someone that he knows to go like, "Hi, we're here for you to actually take notice."
Yeah,
That's pretty
interestingly,
extraordinary.
that's how it works. And if you are not paying attention, the universe tries to get your attention by usually a very common way that this happens is to find something. They call it an angel. This is not at all religious. It's just a term my spirit guides use. They talk about the angel principle. It's stuck usually. And very typically in the work that I do, working with clients, they're stuck in a relationship. They don't know how to get out. Then they meet someone. Now, this person has to be part of their bigger soul family, someone that they've got some kind of spiritual connection with. And that person can come into their life for 2 minutes or 20 years or a lifetime to initiate a change. And we all, whether we know it or not, we do it to other people. We act as angels sometimes to them, and other people will act as angels to us. And it's really to always when one or both are stuck. Sometimes it's a mutual thing. Sometimes it's just one doing it for the other. And what will happen is that if you're not hearing the voice of your soul and the voice of your spirit guides, the spirit guides will use this angel. So the typical thing that happens is that you might reflect on something that this angel said to you. Like, you might say to them a couple of weeks later, "When you said that thing about maybe leaving my husband, it really made me think that was the right thing to do." And very typically that person will go, "I don't remember saying that." And the reason this often happens where the person, the angel, doesn't remember is that they're channeling in that moment. So it's not going in, it's sort of bypassing the cognitive part. And it can sometimes happen when you're helping somebody or having a conversation. You seem to find the right words, magically. In that moment, you're channeling something.
I got complete goosebumps.
I'm not sure about you, Dianne. Thinking of
complete goosebumps as you said that, because I know when I'm coaching clients, I often feel like I'm channeling, and they'll say to me, "Oh, what did you say? I'm just going to write that down." It's like, I have no idea. It's gone.
Oh, that's awful when they ask you to go back and you go, "I have no idea what happened."
Oh, so interesting.
Yeah.
So throughout this process of you, I guess, testing your ability and I guess building your confidence, was there this huge turning point, or what was that pivotal moment then that allowed you to step out of the closet and go like, "This is now the new me," and kind of pronounce that to everyone?
It was very hard. I had huge fears. There were past life fears, so I had to do some past life work for myself. Big fear around judgment, what people are going to say and think about me. Fear of rejection, fear of self-expression. a fear of inferiority. I mean, everything like who am I to even think? But I was embarrassed to tell people I was a psychic because it's, the connotations.
Yeah.
So one of the things that helped me most was I was at a party and the host's father was talking to me and he was deaf. And he said to me, "So what do you do?" And I mumbled, "I'm a psychic." And he's going, "What? Psychotherapist?" I'm going, "No, psychic." "Psychiatrist?" Eventually. And all eyes are on us at this point.
Oh, shit.
And I go, "No, a psychic." And he goes, "Oh, a psychic." Oh, great. It's like, and at that point, that was really the turning point. And, I got my spirit guides going, just own it. I've been trying to find different terms, intuitive counselor, I don't know, all sorts of stuff. And to the point where people wouldn't have known what I did for a living. So I just, after that, it was just, I declared very loudly in front of a whole room of people that I'm a psychic. So that broke the seal. It was after that, it's like, and doing the past life work, because I was very self-conscious about it up until really around that point. And then it's just like, this is what I do. And if you don't get it, that's fine. Like people will say to me, "Well, what do you say to people who don't believe in past lives or psychics or whatever?" I don't say anything. I don't care. If you don't, if you're not into it, I'm not going to try and convince anybody of this. The other thing, I had to deal with, it was my family of origin, back in Scotland, not exactly open to this kind of thing, although bizarrely they'd had sort of strange spiritual experiences. But of course they just thought, well, these are just weird things that happen. So I sat down my parents and because it was my father's brother, my Uncle John. So I felt I really wanted to share that with them. So I sat them down and told them about it, and they went. My mother's reaction was, "Oh my God, what if the minister finds out?" And
yes.
Then I had this glorious moment in a pub in back in Aberdeen, where I was visiting my brother to come up from London. So we're in the pub, and I said, "There's something I want to talk to you about," because I was an illustrator for 20 years, cartoon illustrator. And I said to him, "I've given up being an illustrator to be a psychic." He's got a pint of beer right up at his mouth like that. And he looks at me, totally deadpan. He looks at me and he goes, "So what's your website then? barkingfuckingmad.com?" And
Scottish humor.
So I know. So I told that story at an event that I was doing, and when we took a break, I went, "Hey, I wonder," I went on and no, nobody had barkingfuckingmad.com, so I have that.
Yeah, good idea.
I asked my brother if I could put his photograph on there. He didn't want to do that.
Oh.
So it was. I had to learn to really go for it. Like I wasn't going to get the approval of family or anything. So I just had to really just say, "Oh, what the heck," My ex-wife at the time, she was livid, storming around, going, "I married an artist," and I went, "Well, people change, And it was like, so it was challenging in some ways. I would have liked to have had approval from my nearest and dearest, but it wasn't going to be forthcoming. So I just had to kind of go, well, this is what I'm here to do, and embrace it. Which I did, 100%.
There's such a wonderful lesson in courage and bravery in that for our listeners, because anybody who goes through a spiritual awakening or a spiritual path, it's like we all come to those tipping points where we have to claim and declare who we are. And it's just so wonderful to see that, when you do it, the work that leads to.
Well, I think it's easy if you say, "Mom, Dad, I'm going to be a plumber." And they go, "Yeah, sure." But it's like, "Mom, Dad, I'm a medium. I'm an intuitive healer." It's like, that's where people I work with struggle, because it's out of the mainstream. So it triggers those fears. It's always the same fears, pretty much. What are people going to say or thinking about me? Who am I to be doing this? What about the criticism I'm going to get? And what if what if people don't like me anymore? Yes, or variations on those sort of themes.
Totally resonate with that, Ainsley. I feel like you're talking to me.
Totally.
Well, would you like to know a little bit about yourselves?
Yes. I'm dying to know for our
please
listeners.
There's I could. Okay, well, if I could talk about some of the things that unite you two, because I thought that was so intriguing. Why you two are together not by accident, but very much it's intentional. It's part of the design. So one thing is that both of you have a strong desire for immortality, which is not about living forever, but it's about leaving a legacy, creating a ripple effect, or leaving the world a better place for you having been here.
Yes.
And that acts as a major motivator to both of you. It gets you up in the morning, gets you doing things, making a difference in the world. Liz, you definitely have the visionary kind of thing, sort of like big picture thing going on. And
yes.
My reading of you is, oh my God, I wouldn't get in front of you if you were doing something, and because you would be unstoppable, be like a steamroller,
Absolutely.
Diane's nodding.
I mean, it's to see somebody as dynamic as you is actually really exciting. I mean, like,
Aww.
Here to change the world. You look like a sort of quasi-transformer, like it's on the soul types, like really here to make a huge difference. You,
wow.
I mean, Dianne, you've got some. Well, certainly you both got. Well, actually, let me still talk about some of the similar things. You are both here to learn to be very empowered people, and the reason for that is both of you have got something in your soul's past where you've been massively disempowered, and I would suspect that for both of you, in the past life, it would have been something like sexual violence, rape, sexual abuse, something like that. Because this is really, really intriguing to me, is that both of you, buried in your personalities, your soul types, this is a big part of what I do is figure who people are, because who you are is why you're here. You both have a touch of the caregiver, which is interesting. Yeah, I mean, you'd more normally see that in somebody who's doing hospice work or I don't know, animal rescue center or helping the sick and dying. But you both have that, and to a great extent, it's there to help you open your heart chakras, because there's been a risk that you've shut down the heart chakra for safety in the past, and now it's about learning to really come from a very loving place. And one thing I wondered about both of you is if you've ever been around people who've died. Have you ever helped anybody over to the other side? Because if you did, you would be hell of a good at it.
Wow. I haven't, but it's always something that I find really interesting. But all of that makes complete sense to me, actually.
Yeah.
So here's an interesting thing about the two of you, and I hope this is it's not in any way sort of meant to diminish either of you, but my way of looking at it is like, Liz, you're like the general, and Dianne, you're like the loyal lieutenant.
Yes.
Like.
Yes.
Sorry,
Dianne.
No, it works. It works.
But however, yeah. Well, I mean, let's see. Well, here's if I break down your soul types, both of you have this. Both of you are spiritualist soul types, which most of my clients are. For years, I've been saying 95% of my clientele is made up of spiritualist soul types. Now I say 98%. It's just like. It's ridiculous every single day. Wow. It's a breath of fresh air when I get somebody who's not. But if it weren't for spiritualists, I probably wouldn't have a career. Yeah. So what that does is you have past lives as a healer or contemplative, those two different paths, and they come together. And what they do is they create a strong sense of spirituality, and usually because of the age of your souls, an awareness that religion and spirituality are not the same. It's much more of a spiritual journey for both of you. Mm-hmm. But you both need to feel like people benefit from what you do. Like there has to be a recipient. Dianne, you're both smart as all hell, but you are much more academically oriented.
Yep.
Intellect
And
driven,
I'm very
yes.
surprised you're not making loads of notes as we talk, because that's...
I usually do.
I thought, Dianne, you would process very much through writing.
I do.
She does.
I always joke about if I do live events and there's somebody like you, and if there's somebody like you in front of me, I can tell, because you look like a court stenographer, it's like taking down everything I say. Liz, you want to learn, you want to learn and grow, but you don't want to get too caught up in the academic or that sort of thing. It's much more about doing. You're all about making things happen. That's why I say you'd be absolutely unstoppable. With one little caveat, because you've got a very strong leader influence in your soul types. The only thing that can happen is if you're not sure about the path forward, that part of you will sit back because it doesn't want to put all that energy into something if it might be wrong. Mm. But if you know it's what you're meant to do, like I say, nothing will stop you.
Oh, yeah, that is just completely true, isn't it, Dianne?
Ainsley, if you had been a fly on the wall for our earlier meeting, you would have known that to be 100% validated now.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. Good. I'm very pleased to hear it. Do you want to hear about a past life? I got one for each of you.
Yes, please.
Oh my God.
Yes. And I'm sure our listeners are all on the edge of their seats
my notes here. Okay. Well, Dianne, I'll do you first. Oh, I wanted to say this about you, Dianne. This is really interesting. Excuse me. The reason I was saying that you're, pardon me, more of that loyal lieutenant is because you have got a hunter influence in you, which is like a leader light in a way. But you also have a what's called a mission of control, which is not about being controlling, but it's a thing where you can take a leadership position when you need to, but then you can discard it. So for you, Liz, it's a way of being. For you, Dianne, it's a way of acting, and that you can switch on and off. So 100%. When you need to step up, it's there, but you're not carrying that energy around with you all the time. Both of you, I think, would have had the experience where people will underestimate you and be very surprised because you are hell of a strong, and probably is a point where you can be fairly easygoing, but at some point you just will take no more and come out fighting.
Takes a while, but
but it happens.
You look so, I don't know, sort of it's like, you look so harmless and easygoing, but I wouldn't cross either of you.
That's what my husband says.
I'm sure he learned, very early on. Knew his place, right?
Oh yeah.
So, okay, let's have a look at this past life for you, Dianne. This is really interesting because this life was in Germany. You were female. It's 20th century, but I think very, very early 20th century. Yeah, the context would be very early. You were a follower of Madame Blavatsky, who what is it? Her thing. Do you know the name?
I don't.
Theosophical Society. I think that's what it is.
Ah.
Okay. So anyway, so it was like a spiritual group, and you ended up doing hands-on healing work. You were very good at it, and what they say, you were often asked to be there at the time of death. That's interesting. We were talking about that earlier.
Oh, wow.
Helping people over to the other side, so you did quite a lot of that. I didn't get a lot about this life, except, the big thing there is it obviously was a very spiritual life, and you were doing a lot of good work. Doing this hands-on healing would mean that, well, I know from just even looking at your chart, both of you would be able to channel energy through your hands. It would just be a natural thing, and especially because you got a past life playing into it. The sad thing about the end of that past life is that the spirit guides described your death as from a bacterial lung infection. They said that you were isolated and you're hungry and cold. It was all around the time of World War I. So I think there was probably lack of food, lack of heating, and that sort of thing. Do you get anxious when you get hungry or cold or something?
My
Any
blood
kind of
sugar drops really quickly.
thing,
I have to eat.
Oh, yep. Yes. Yep. That's it. And what about the cold? Do you have cold extremities?
I do. Yeah, I'm probably more
Dislike
sensitive to
the cold?
heat than I am to cold. But yeah, temperature, extremes of
that could be
temperature, I don't like.
definitely not coming from that life because it was, extremes could be, that can be part of it too. Let me see what else. And one of the goals for this life related to that is overcoming fears around self-expression. So it's really about learning to speak your truth. And part of that is to be able to say, hey, this is what I do. And it's weird. And I know you don't get it, but this is my path. You don't want anyone telling you can't do something, or even having that small, still voice of naysayers making you second guess yourself or whatever. You get enough second guessing because of that very intellectual centering. You're going to be questioning your intuition and everything all the time.
Definitely.
Just kind of the way it is. But so let me see, Liz, got a past life for you as well.
That was amazing. Thank you, Ainsley.
Okay, okay. But it resonates.
100%, everything.
I think that.
So, okay.
Definitely.
So, Liz, your past life was in New York. Again, it's a 20th century life. Most of the lives that I look at are last couple of 100 years, which is a pity because I'd like to know more about medieval societies and so on. But I just most of the past lives that affect us are more kind of recent. So you were male, and you were a wealthy businessman, and you had a lot of shame and guilt around there being so much poverty when you were so wealthy. You supported a socialist candidate for president. It was Eugene Debs. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but I think you knew him and were a big supporter. I think you supported him financially. But you were, as a result of all that, you were shunned by friends, and nobody none of your peers wanted anything to do with you. You were a real sort of oddball. Well, you were very supportive of unions as well. But the problem is that you died prematurely. I did get the death. You contracted polio. And one of the things about this past life, some of the big lessons that you had there were about equality, exploration. You wanted to do a lot. And unfortunately, you got cut off in your prime. So what you're trying to do in this life is make up for lost time. And this lesson in equality, which was bugging you in that past life because you felt it was wrong, for you to be so entitled and, have all this wealth and so on, other people to not have it, has carried over into this life. It allows you to see the humanity in everybody, see no matter what somebody's, how well off they are or whatever, how poor, you see them as equals. That's a big thing you've taken away, and that you're still working on, but it's a lifelong, sort of lifetime goal. But you want to. It's a busy life because you want to get a lot done, and I mean, you'll never retire because it's too much to do. There's too much need and people to help. One of the things about you both having this, having had this disempowerment in a past life, like I said, probably around rape or something similar, is that not only do you want to become empowered women in this life, but you want to empower others.
Yes.
And that's a really key thing. That it's how do I help? Excuse me. Hang on one second.
I mean, that is just so true.
Yeah, wow. How do I help? It's particularly women, I would have thought. Help them to be empowered. Yeah. I mean, is what you both do, do you think it's more geared towards women than men?
I mean, I run a company geared completely towards inspiring and empowering women, so definitely spot on.
Okay, right, okay.
Whereas I'm the
case.
opposite. I spend like a lot of my coaching clients are all male, and I spend more time. I feel I have better results with male clients than I do with female, but I keep getting told I need to work more with females.
Interesting.
But I definitely feel that I shift the dial more with males, which is interesting.
That is. Well, follow your heart on that one. Now, the other thing is that, I get this from people all the time. For example, I'll tell a client they should be writing, and they say, psychics are always telling me I should write. And I go, well, pay attention. If you keep hearing the message from other sources, remember those angels and others, they could be telling you that, you need to expand more into working with women. But follow your heart. There's no kind of right or wrong. But that thing of empowering others, it's totally karmic. It's like you were disempowered in the past life, so you not only want to be empowered yourself, you want to help other people to do that. The soul will always think, this was our past life experience. What would we have wanted? And almost always, you would want somebody to help you, maybe help you to stand up for yourself and help you to heal or whatever. Both of you are, big missions of healing. And that's really about improving. It's about self-improvement as well, but it's about really wanting to see a better world. But I bet both of you have read a few self-help books in your time.
Oh, just a couple.
Just one or two.
Yeah.
You mentioned a really interesting word then, because, we throw it around since we're young. Oh, it's karma. That's my karma. What's your understanding of karma and how it plays out?
Well, the first thing I always tell people is that karma is not punishment. It's a bit of a sort of erroneous message people get that somehow you're being punished for something you did. Karma is just mostly about balance, balancing the effects of one life against another. So, and I see it just working out in all sorts of ways. If let's say, for example, both of you are working through a past life issue around rejection. So it'd be some kind of abandonment. Usually it's dying alone, or it could be abandoned by the mother or something like that. And the interesting thing is that this is karmic. So you've been abandoned. So now you want to, karmically, you want to belong. But also the elevated way to heal is not just to belong, but it's to create community, a place for other people to feel that they belong. So this is an interesting thing that after my last book came out, I think I did, in the space of a few months, I did about 40 podcasts, and I would do little mini readings. I found every single person that was interviewing me was working through this fear of rejection. And what a great way to bring people together, to be a podcaster. But of course, there's lots of other ways, but so it's always karma, always balancing, one thing against the other. You've been disempowered in the past life, like I said, and then you want to be empowered or to empower others. That's really sort of simple karma, really, and how it works. There's a lot of nuances and so on, but it's never punishment. You never sort of, just because you're having a really hard time, it's not because you kicked a dog in a past life. It's
the poor dog.
And for anything to sort of reach a level, where karma has to be balanced, it's got to be pretty big. It's got to be, it's got to reach a point where you really maybe interfered with somebody's ability to live out their life plan, or they did that to you. And then the soul feels, okay, there's something that then needs to be resolved. And that will all be resolved or decided between lives. And then the choices then become, okay, what do we do in this upcoming life to balance the karma that we need to do? It's a constant, it keeps you in a constant state of flux and always something to work on.
I'd love to ask Ainslie, and this is a question coming from a personal place, but in the work that you do and, encouraging us to live the life our soul intended, is it more important that we focus on ourselves, or is it more important, like in our growth and our development, Or is it more important that we work within the dynamics of the people around us? So, as an example, making a decision that is best for the family, making a decision that is best for my child, those sorts of ways. Or is it that we're here truly to live our own soul's journey and just to develop and grow as an individual soul? Do you have an insight on that for us?
Yeah, do you have like 3 or 4 hours? It's a big one.
I was wondering, did it even make sense what I was asking?
A lot really depends. No, it totally makes sense. And well, some people are here to work on themselves more than others. A lot would. I mean, it's very, very subjective. When I'm looking at somebody, I always look at their personality. What did you choose for this life? That's all broken down into soul types. Look at the soul age. Look at the missions that you're on, and so on. So, for some people, I'd also look at fears as well, and any kind of blocks. Most of us are here to work on ourselves, and to, like I say, developing self-empowerment and loads of other things besides. But it's very, very important to remember that we don't exist in a vacuum, and we are here to interact with others. There's a problem with a lot of people who are on the spiritual path, is that there's a kind of selfishness that goes with it sometimes. Put it sort of simply, you get people who think that being spiritual is just simply about doing your meditation and your yoga, and, as I joke, wishing everybody namaste. And that's great. It's wonderful. And the spirit world would have everybody do all of that. That's great. We should all meditate. It's key to connecting with your soul, your spirit guides, and I mean, every spiritual practice worth anything tells you meditation is important. But these are means to an end, not the end in itself. And it's great to go off and work on yourself. Do a silent retreat if that works for you. God, that horrifies me. I couldn't shut up.
Oh, me too.
For 2 minutes.
I love it. I love it.
Anything worse.
I know. That's it. I'm actually exploring this. We have our membership community. We're exploring the introvert-extrovert paradox, which is a totally spiritual thing. You choose before coming into this world where you lie on the spiritual on the beg your pardon, introvert-extrovert mission of connection, mission of avoidance spectrum. So that will play into all of this. But we're really here ideally we should all be making a positive difference in other people's lives. That's what true spirituality is. It's really creating a better world. And we live in a horribly narcissistic world in general. Especially the country I'm in the States. I mean, it's like just, oh my God, And so we old souls, we should be helping others and showing younger souls that this is what it means to be spiritual. It's to help and benefit others, to help create a better world. I mean, I get a lot of stick for talking about politics from people who say, I get messages all the time. Somebody telling me because I'm Scottish, I should keep my nose out of American politics. That was a good one. Having lived here for 30-something years. But the idea that somehow spirituality and politics are separate things, the way the spirit world sees it, that it's all connected. And, and especially, I mean, you get people, I get it all the time, people saying, well, I'm spiritual, I don't take any interest in politics. And that's great, but that's how you're going to get totalitarian regimes coming in. You don't bother voting, and there's a lot of people who will vote, and they can be creating a much worse world for others. The other thing is you get a lot of people voting for their self-interest and going, well, my pension will do better under this law, forgetting that, I mean, for example, I have a transgender son, and I mean, I dread to think how much worse things are going to get for him, people like him, if Trump gets back into office in the States. These are major issues, and people could say, "Oh, Ainsley, you're so partisan," or whatever. Yeah, absolutely, I am. I absolutely take sides on that. We hear people saying, "Well, both parties are the same." Well, if all you're interested in is how well your pension or stocks are doing, well, maybe that's right. But for a lot of people, I mean, if you're an immigrant, if you're LGBTQ, whatever, there's a huge difference. Yeah. And so we should all be getting more involved in helping to create a better world and being on the right side of history and all of that. I'm going to step off my soapbox now.
No, I love that. Absolutely.
No,
it's just
it's
so
bringing
important,
spirituality into the real world.
Use your stuff.
It is real world spirituality, because it's not, it's great if you just want to do your thing. That's fine. It's part of it, and wonderful. And there are some people, some people are meant to be way more active than others. Not everyone comes here to sort of, be fully immersed in change or whatever. But all of us should at least be conscious of the issues. And I mean, my spirit guides have a lot to say on it. I asked them one time what they saw the biggest three challenges facing humanity were, and they said water, water, and water.
Oh,
isn't that interesting?
Interesting.
They see it like, and also they've said many times that climate issues should be the number one thing on the news every night. It should be the lead story, and of course it's not. And we're going to hell in a very hot handbasket, by not taking care of this.
Yeah. Ainslie, do you think when we look at, the people that are doing the wrong thing in the world, would you consider them to be the young souls, or how does that play in? How do, we come onto the planet to come and make a difference, and there's some people who are coming on to, just like Trump, as an example, to go back to politics. Yeah. How does that happen?
Takers and givers. It really has a lot to do. Well, I'm just actually putting the finishing touches to my course. It's called my next course. It's called Healing the Wounded Empath, Spiritual Path to Recovery from Narcissistic Abuse. And so,
wow,
my entire life has been shaped by narcissistic abuse from childhood right through. I mean, thank God I met my wife, Christine, 11 years ago, and it sort of broke patterns, broke the mold, and she's fabulous and loving and wonderful. But I've encountered so many narcissists. I was like a magnet for them. And unfortunately, these narcissists go for what I call wounded empaths. These are empaths who carry these past life fears, overcome the fears, and they'll stop bothering you. But it's a major issue. It's a spiritual issue. That what creates a narcissist is spiritual damage. But they have a broken, not a broken heart chakra, like a closed heart chakra. Yeah. And so the more closed the heart chakra is, the easier it is just to see things from your perspective and what affects you. It's an absence of empathy, and that's really sort of like the most common sign of somebody being a narcissist. Although they all seem to go to the same school, as one of my clients said, and they all do the same stuff. But you really got that difference between the givers and takers, and those takers will find the givers and take, and very often destroy them. Sometimes it is because they're younger souls, like you were saying. Younger souls lack the experience, so sometimes they can be very empathic towards themselves or their family or people that they relate to, same color skin, same religion, whatever, but can be very unkind and uncaring and cruel even towards people who are different. You'll see this with religious divide and social divide and so on. But essentially, it really comes down to the heart chakra. The more open the heart chakra is, the more you recognize that we're all connected, that we are all one. And what happens to you It is, somebody on the other side of the planet feels things as deeply as you do. And that's difficult for younger souls or those who are blocked to really get.
Mm. Diane's a little bit of a healer, so I think that you totally would be able to start a huge conversation on that note, wouldn't you?
Definitely. Although it's interesting, Ainsley, when you did say about healing coming out in a past life for me, because in this life, I have very much kept getting these downloads that you're a healer, you're a healer, you're a healer. And I resisted it and resisted it. So when it does come through now to hear it, and I have taken steps towards that, but to hear it again come through from and we've only met today. Obviously, I've followed your work for a long time, but we've only met in person today. So for you to say that again is like, okay, there we go. I need to own it. I probably need to shout out, I am a healer.
Exactly. Absolutely. Just find a deaf old guy and just tell him as loud as you can.
Ainsley, is there like a story? I know that we're coming to the end of our chat, which is disappointing because I feel like we could probably talk all night. Is there a good experience that you've got to share from a reading or even a personal experience of how a past life has really affected via like illness or personality or fear that you can share that, our listeners may resonate with?
Yeah, there's one story I've told this a few times recently because it's such an amazing story. I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. But there was just somebody who came to me. So actually, he was working in Europe, and a friend of mine, a client, was spending time there. And this bloke confided in my friend that he had this very, very unusual condition, that he sleepwalks, but he doesn't just sleepwalk, he throws himself out windows.
Oh God.
Gosh.
I know. He had broken every bone in his body, I think. He said the times he would wake up and he's lying there in the neighbor's yard. And it's so, broken legs, time in a wheelchair. He'd been looking for the sort of like neurological source of this. My friend goes, well, it sounds to me like it could be a past life issue. So he actually bought him a session with me. This person's very intellectually centered. He would not have, he probably, not, he wouldn't be not that my clients are not intellectually centered, but it was just like,
we know what you mean.
You know what I mean? He wasn't, never even heard of like past life work or anything. But he called me and I said, well, the problem is that this is such a simple thing to fix that it's only going to take 10 minutes. So he wasn't interested in knowing, the rest of his life plan or whatever. That was all. So I just said, okay, let's break this into like 4 or 5, 10-minute or 15-minute sessions and just see what happens. So the past life issue was that he had been a young man during World War II. He was a partisan in Norway when the Nazis invaded. He was arrested and he was interrogated, and he was tied to a chair and being interrogated and tortured and experiencing this dreadful stuff, and of course wanting to escape.
Wow.
And in front of him was a window, and all his soul could think about, or he could think about at the time, was if I could just leap through that window, I could end it all. And so what then is happening at night, he was re-experiencing that, and he was trying to escape. I mean, he would have to tie himself down to the bed, and it's really it affected his whole life. So that took 10 minutes, and I sent him off and talked to him a few weeks later, and I said, "How are you doing?" And he'd been keeping a record of this since he was like a kid. So I mean, he'd done like the journal. I think he was mid-30s at that point. And he said, "I'm exactly 80% better."
Wow.
So he was kind of blown away. So we just,
Wow.
I said, well, let's take it to as close to 100% as we can get. We did a little bit more processing around it. And then I talked to him again, maybe a month later. And he said at that point, he didn't even keep notes anymore. It was just no longer a thing. But what fascinates me about this, about any past life work, is the potential for healing. It's not. It's interesting. It's good to know that you had this experience in a past life, and we can make sense of a few things. But I've worked with people who've blown through the most extraordinary stuff. One of my clients, 59 years old, and had psoriasis for 57 years that healed up within a few weeks of us talking. She actually came to an event that I did last summer, bare arms, first time in her life.
Wow.
She was just, changed her life, So I really feel that past life work contains the potential for the most incredible healing. And we as humans, and we're not quite there yet. I don't think we'll see any huge shifts in my time here, but I think in the future, I've often said this, that I think in 100 years from now, you go to a doctor's office and there'll be a psychic helping you to do some past life work and figure the blocks because so many things that we deal with are just past life related, especially those ones where people say to me, "Oh, the doctors haven't been able to find the source." And generally, people don't come to me saying, "Oh, I've got this, pain or whatever. Can you fix it?" Usually, I'm looking at a past life and going, "This person got shot in the temple. Do you have headaches in this life?" I go, "Oh my God, all my life."
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Then just sometimes within just a few days or weeks, these things seem to just disappear. Sometimes they need a little bit more work, a little bit more processing. Sometimes there can be more than one life playing into it. But the healing potential is absolutely enormous. I have a dream, and something I will work towards, is getting a bunch of people in a room, 100 people with fertility issues, and finding the past life source. 100 people with fear of public speaking. It's always a past life issue. All these things. Just see if we can do it en masse, because I'm working one-on-one on
volunteering.
It's after a while, it feels a bit slow, but.
Yeah, Ainslie, when you're ready, we will give you a big shout out for anything like that. We are behind you.
Absolutely. I'll let you know.
Incredible.
Yes.
It's so interesting. And I can just imagine that our listeners are identifying, the fears, the beliefs, the things that are happening, and are all wanting to come and book a reading with you now. And I know that you've
bit of a long wait.
I was about to say that. What can people do if you've really stirred up that interest today in people going to investigate their past lives? Do you have any incredible resources?
I have incredible resources. I absolutely do. My wife Christine and I, we do we call it Soul World Sunday. Every Sunday we have a half-hour, 40-minute broadcast. Have you guys ever joined us there?
I have.
Dianne has.
Yes.
Dianne's told me all about it, and I'll definitely be there.
So she does a beautiful meditation. I do a little sermon, and then we answer some questions. And it's a beautiful community, and it's free every Sunday, 12 o'clock, Soul World Sunday. And it will give you a real, taste of what I do. And then we have our membership program, Soul World Community, and very affordable, just $27 a month. And you get an awful lot for that. We also have a subject of the month chosen by the spirit guides. Like I said earlier, this month we're exploring this connection avoidance paradox and why people are some, extroverts, introverts, ambiverts, and everything in between. A different topic every month. Might be karma 1 month, soul types another. So all these spiritual topics, and very, very active forum. Great place to come and meet people. That was part of our intention when we started this. It's a place for old souls to come and feel safe, that you can talk about spiritual matters. Nobody's going to think you're nuts.
Yeah, and we all need those places.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, I mean, so, check out soulworld.com or just on myname.com. And
thank you.
Yeah, there's loads and
We'll
loads
definitely
of
post
there.
all of the links in our show notes as well. And obviously we'll pop all of the links to your books.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
And I just know that there's just so much to discover in these topics that we've, just touched on today.
Yeah.
But thank you. That's been interesting, Dianne, hasn't it?
Oh, I'm blown away. Absolutely.
Well,
there's so much to know and learn.
That's how I feel. It's like it's endless exploration. Every day I get something where I go, oh, so that's how that works. Like connecting all these different parts of the whole thing. So yeah, it's a lifetime of exploration with this stuff.
Absolutely.
It fascinates the hell out of me too.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, both of you, for having me on the show, and I really appreciate any opportunity to talk about my work. As you can probably tell, I really love my job.
Keep doing what you do, because it's amazing. And yeah, thank you so much. And hopefully we might be able to persuade you to come back on at a later date as well, Ainsley, to continue.
I'll be very easily persuaded.
Thank you.
All you got to do is ask.
That's it for another episode. Thank you for listening.
If you're looking for a place to feel at home and want to level up your spiritual game, head to our website, spiritualaf.co, and check out our upcoming online events and for information on how to join our Patreon community.
Plus, leave us a 5-star review with an awesome comment on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and we're going to send you a free ticket to one of our Supercharged session events.
Until next time, stay spiritual as fuck.